We're here in Vicksburg, Mississippi at Vicksburg's National Military Park. Come check it out. This video is about the U.S. Civil War. When you come to Vicksburg, you're driving through the Confederate and the Union battle lines in the national park. If you look at the map, the Mississippi River is a huge deal, a huge supply chain. Whoever controls the Mississippi River controls that part of the country. Now here goes the history. Here we are at the visitor center. And of course, right? Of course you got the books. I'm gonna go get a stamp and a sticker as usual. One more down. Let's go check it out.
Today.
Hello.
What can we help you with today?
Just looking.
All right, feel free to look around. Yeah, we've got a small exhibit area through there with a fiber optic map. And our movie started about 5 minutes ago. We do have 2 stamps here and 3 stamps at the USS paper.
Nice, thank you. Just a quick overview on what's in here. Bummy.
Hi.
Wait for you guys to come to explore the fine details yourself and the gift shop. This is all the different cannon fire that both sides used against each other. Pretty vicious. Look at all the different varieties. That's Frederick Douglass. Reminders in stone and bronze. The men who fought here long ago made history in their struggle and sacrifice. Across the park, more than 1,300 monuments and markers have been placed to memorialize the soldiers and sailors who fell and to implore future generations of Americans to never again take up arms against one another. Through the stone and bronze, servicemen of the past still speak to us today. Yeah, a real good idea when you come here as well is to get the Vicksburg app on your phone, and you could do a driving tour with narration. The obelisk. We're here at the Illinois Memorial. Now it's modeled after the Pantheon in Rome, and it's here to commemorate the 36,000 soldiers from Illinois that fought in the Civil War. Let's go check that out. And here are their names. Wow. Echo. There's all the men that fought here. Here's Bombi learning American history. The Shirley House, owned by James Shirley, who was a Union sympathizer, but yet owned 25 slaves. His son, teenage son Quincy, joined the Union troops at his doorstep in fighting the Confederates. You can see what the house looked like back then, during the campaign, and how the soldiers dug in to sleep all around the home. And it says after, it was also used to quarantine people with smallpox as well. But they're restoring the home back to its original pre-war condition. That's a huge cannon. There's just so much to look at. Like they said, there's 1,300 memorials and statues. Just driving through the park, it's hard to pick where to stop. It'd take you a week to stop at every one of them. All the different battle lines. Major General Ulysses S. Grant, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Army under Abraham Lincoln, whose brave campaign won the Battle of Vicksburg, thus splitting the Confederacy in two, taking control of the Mississippi River, and ultimately one of the major victories that led to the winning of the war and the abolition of slavery. Joining up for freedom, the Union Army became a refuge for formerly enslaved African Americans in 1862. The Second Confiscation Act declared that enslaved people taking refuge behind Union lines would be set free. Across the South, black freedom seekers flocked to the Federals and worked as laborers, cooks, and teamsters. But many wanted to fight in the battle, and fight they did. In 1862 and 1863, forward-thinking Union commanders began forming units like the 1st and 3rd Mississippi Regiments. African descent, but many Northerners were skeptical about the decisions to accept black into military service. The tide of public opinion quickly turned after heroic action by black troops in 1863 at Port Hudson and Milliken's Bend along the Mississippi. These soldiers were among the first formerly enslaved men to join the Union Army. By early 1863, white recruits had slowed to a trickle. The Union Army desperately needed more men. Creating black regiments brought an infusion of new soldiers, helping the North keep a numerical advantage over the South and win the war. Now this is to commemorate the first African American soldiers in U.S. history and their bravery and their fighting for freedom. We're here at the USS Cairo Museum in Vicksburg National Military Park. Let me go check out the restored ship. Here's a Civil War ironclad. They have 13 cannons, had steel plates on the outside for armor, steam driven, and went 9 miles an hour. They're restoring this one. It's an actual real one. Yeah, it was sunk in 36 feet of water by the Confederates with what they think might have been electrically controlled mines, which they called torpedoes back then. Nobody was killed, but they later raised her and restored, salvaged what they could, and are restoring it back to its original specifications. Now this will show you the steam engine and the paddle wheel. Here's what's left of it. Crew of immigrants. Union sailors. There's the actual iron which protected the ship from fire. It took a crew of 6 men to fire each gun. It has 13 guns on it. These cannons are massive. There's your rudder. Twin rudders, right? Here's the museum next to the Cairo. There's a small gift shop. Talks about restoring the Cairo. So there's this tunnel right here which goes through this ridge. And the soldiers built it so they can pass under the ridge safely, because at the top of the hill right there were Confederate snipers that would pick off the soldiers if they... Cars parked up there. And that's where the road is now, but if they walked on top of this ridge, snipers would pick them off. So they made this tunnel so they could safely pass and get supplies back and forth to the front lines. Here brothers fought. Here Confederates from Missouri fought Union soldiers from Missouri. At Vicksburg and across every Civil War battlefield, many who had once been friends faced off as enemies. Neighbors and even family members fought themselves on opposite sides, fighting for different ideals. Did they hesitate to fire on each other? In the officers' ranks were many men who had attended the same military academies. When Grant and Pemberton met to discuss surrender terms, they spoke as enemies, as the enemy commanders, but also as West Point graduates. The Civil War was not a struggle to fend off a foreign nation, but a war of Americans fighting Americans. So now we're at the top of that hill where that tunnel was. Now you can imagine there's the Union soldiers, well, both sides were trenched in, especially down there. And so you really couldn't pick them off unless they got above the trenches, which would be the top of that ridge. And that's why they built the tunnel. So after many attempts of the Union soldiers trying to take the city of Vicksburg, they basically camped them out. They surrounded the city, cut off all their supplies, fought the battles they could, and waited for the Confederates to surrender, which they did, thus winning the war at Vicksburg. So that'll end our video today of Vicksburg National Park. Catch you guys in the next one. Late.